Hi, I'm Nicola. I'm a student at ECU and my area is cognitive psychology learning strategies. So I thought I would bring you some tips on my blog about how to apply some of these ideas to graduate research. Something that's important and not always recognised as such when we hear things about 21st century thinking skills, etc., is the incredible importance of having knowledge in long-term memory. And as we're going through our studies, we're finding things out about all different aspects of our topic, and we're building up a schema. But it's important that we actually get this knowledge into our long-term memory. And I'm sure we've all been guilty of reading an article and saying, yep, that's good, that's relevant, but then not really either having the organisation or having the memory required to take that straight into our long-term memory. So I'm going to be talking about ways that we can get this knowledge into our long-term memory so we can build up these schemas on our topic. A great quote is, an ability to think critically about chess does not translate into an ability to think critically about sailing. So the higher order thinking skills that we need in our studies come from the knowledge base of our domain specific topic. And the more we know, the more we can know, and it informs the types of skills that we're going to need, like analysis and synthesis and creating. So you would have heard of Bloom's taxonomy before, probably. The triangle image, which is frequently seen with reference to Bloom's taxonomy, actually wasn't created by the researchers who developed this taxonomy. The big picture is from my thesis, and this is adapted from some of the authors, and it really emphasises how important knowledge is. Knowledge automated in long-term memory is necessary for all of those higher order thinking skills. The thing that I like about the triangle is the idea that, and it fits with the theory, that you remember something and then you understand it and then you practice applying it, then you can use it for analysing, evaluating and creating. So within our topics, our subtopics within our research area, these pictures could represent schemas that we are holding as we are growing in our knowledge of our topic. But what's really exciting and what we hope to get to is the ability to take this knowledge from all different areas and synthesize it and come up with some really new ideas. So this tip that I'm talking about today is going to help us to practice the knowledge that we're gleaning from the research articles that we're reading to help us move towards this place. So first of all, a common perception is that when learning feels fluid and when we feel like we're understanding what we're reading and yep, we've got this, we feel like great progress is being made, like we're really learning a lot of stuff here as we read these countless articles. However, what cognitive psychology reveals to us is that we can think that we're going very well and that we're understanding and we're growing in knowledge, but this is a highly unreliable index of whether we're going to be able to retain that learning. Is it durable? Will we be able to remember it next week or in 3 weeks' time? It kind of relates to cramming for a test, like we can cram, understand it, perform fine on a test the next day, but that actually isn't the purpose of learning. We want to be able to retain that knowledge. So if nothing has changed in long-term memory, nothing has been learned. Now, desirable difficulty theory is a big part of what I'm studying. And basically this theory says that if we keep repeating the same thought-demanding task again and again, our brain seeks to remember it to avoid this thinking effort. So this really relates very much to homeostasis. which biology was my foundational degree. And it works in beautifully with that. And if you just think about the body and the fact that when we're cold, our body reacts, it shivers. When we put our muscles under strain regularly, our muscles respond by growing and getting stronger. So in terms of the brain, when we keep demanding that same piece of information, when we keep demanding to remember it, what is it, our brain doesn't like that effort. And so that is the process that moves the learning into long-term memory. So there's a number of desirable difficulty strategies that can facilitate this type of mechanism. I'm just looking at two of them today in today's tip, which is spaced practice, where when we're practicing our learning, we spread it out over days or longer, and that is versus massed learning or practice, where we just sit down and do a whole lot of study on an afternoon on a topic, for example, and don't return to it. The other strategy is retrieval practice, and retrieval practice is where we practice remembering. So rather than taking an article, for example, and just rereading it, sure, it makes us feel good and we read it and we think, yep, I get it, I understand this, but it's not going to help us to remember it long term. But if we practice remembering content from the article, that's going to make a difference. So we've heard of formative testing, which is to inform teachers, for example, of what students are missing and what they need still to learn. Summative testing is where we go into an exam and we get a result, like a cumulative result, but retrieval testing is actually a strategy of learning. So now to the tip. This is about attempting to remember key information from priority articles, and we're going to do it by creating questions on them. So first of all, we're going to take a post-it note. We're going to select only the priority articles, or when we come across one where we think, oh, well, this is key, we can select that one. We want to ask, what's this article about? So just stick your post-it note on your article, and the question is, what is it about? No, don't write the answer, because you're going to have highlighted the most important things in the article. So the answers will be in the article. You just need to write the questions. A second one might be, who is the first author? Because this piece of information is really helpful. I can remember, I know that an article related to what I'm writing about right now was by Dunlosky. And at least if I can remember the first author's name, I can then go and look up and try to find it. And then you can get on to some topic-based questions. So for me personally, that might be, according to this article, what are the best intervals for spacing learning? And then which theory does this result support? So basically the key pieces of information that you want to remember from that article are the questions that you will write. So here's an example of an article of mine. So I've selected a key article. I've gone through and read it, written my notes on the side, highlighted, etc. as usual, but don't think that the highlighting in itself is going to help you remember anything. Scientifically, it's been proven to do very, very little. So the highlighting is there to show me what is important, and also to help me think, right, I need to remember this, and that informs my questions. So key article, read the article, highlight what's important, write down some key questions, and then comes the spacing part. If this is a key article, if you want to be able to retain this information and then use it in your long-term memory to combine with all of the other learning that you're doing, then you want to pull out this article over a number of days or up to weeks and just ask yourself those questions. What was this article about? Why was it important? And the questions on the front, ask yourself. So if you don't remember, that's fine, but you've got to remember that it is the struggle. So struggle, think, think, think. Okay, now what was it? What was special about the research these guys did? And if you can't remember, no big deal. Just look up the article and go, oh, that's what it was about. So you're giving yourself some feedback, and that will help as well. And if at any time you can describe things in your own words, that's another form of retrieval. It's called elaboration. That will really help. And of course, then generating some different formats for the same information, like be it a mind map or something along those lines, that will also help. But this is just tip number one. Write questions that relate to important articles that have concepts that you want to remember. If you want to get in touch with me, that's my email address. Mastery Learning Group is my business, and I'm happy to help any students with any type of assistance when it comes to these cognitive psychology learning strategies. And all the best for your degree.